Oye, muéstrame tu tierra, mami. Vamos allá. Bueno, mira. Oye, llévame al campo, la tierra donde naciste. Carretero tira su carreta, que recuerda donde viviste. Contemplarte en la sierra, contemplarte en los valles, y lo hacemos juntos para capturar los detalles. Tierra, tierra, muéstrame tu tierra, mamá. Tierra, tierra, muéstrame tu tierra, mamita. Tierra, 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 tierra. Bueno, mira de nuevo, estamos viajando lejos, pero vale la pena. Recogemos recuerdos y siempre buscamos terrena. Esto es tuyo y siempre lo será. Siempre será tu tierra y siempre lo recordarás. Óyelo, tierra, tierra, siempre lo recordarás. Tierra, tierra, es tu tierra, mami. Tierra, 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 tierra. Bueno, mira, juntos vamos para allá. Tu tierra. Escucha, aquí es tu tierra y siempre la será, mamá. Aquí es tu tierra y siempre la recordará. Óyelo bien, mamita, y siempre la será, oye. Aquí es tu tierra y siempre la recordará. Siempre la recordará. Aquí es tu tierra y siempre la será. Vamos para allá, mamita linda. Aquí es tu tierra y siempre la recordará. Vamos para allá. Tierra y siempre la será, oye. Tierra y siempre la recordará. Camina, como dicen, tierra y siempre la será. Siempre la será, mamá. Siempre la recordará. La tierra, 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 tierra. Vamos para allá, para tu tierra, mamita. Tierra, tierra, siempre será tu tierra. Tierra, tierra. Camina para allá, camina. Por siempre aquí estará. La, 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 la. Oye, por siempre aquí estará. Por siempre aquí estará. Mire, yo fui papaya, papá. Suena la trompeta ahí. Siempre aquí estará. Ay, qué rico.
Yo, I think I should
Señorita.
tweet out that I'm live so we get more crazies.
Bueno, mira, señora, ay señorita, nadie sabía lo que iba a pasar. Solamente fuiste y me dejaste solito en la eternidad. Señora, ay señorita, yo sé que ahora estás lejos de mí. Siempre estoy pensando lo que estás haciendo y si te sientes más feliz. Y si te sientes más feliz, oye. Y espero yo que no te sientas sola y que tu vida está llena de felicidad. Porque deseo que nadie tenga que sentirse ahora mismo como yo, atrapado en la oscuridad, solito en la eternidad, solito en la eternidad, oye. Trompeta.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. This is a rare coming soon screen. Starting soon screen.
Oye, señora, vuélvete acá. Ven acá, mi amor. Estoy perdido en la eternidad. Es la verdad, es la verdad. Oye, señora, vuélvete acá. Vuélvete, chiquita. Estoy perdido en la eternidad. Estoy perdido en la eternidad, mami. Oye, señora, vuélvete acá. Ven, 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 ven. Estoy perdido en la eternidad. Vuélvete, mi amor, ahora. Oye, señora, vuélvete acá. Oye, señora,
Testing, testing. Is on? I fucked around with the mic. Hopefully I didn't fuck it up.
Saxofón.
You can hear me now? Alright, let's check one second.
Eso, súbelo.
¡Súbelo! Ay, señora.
Vuélvete acá. Ay, ¿por qué me dejaste? Solamente fuiste. Ay, ven, 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 ven. Ay, ven acá, señora. Ay, ven acá, señora. Ay, ven, señora. Mira, yo espero yo que no te sientas sola y que tu vida esté llena de felicidad. Porque
Calling all
deseo que
haters.
nadie tenga que sentirse ahora mismo como yo, atrapado en la oscuridad y solito en la eternidad. Ay, señora,
Ay, señora. Alright, yo. What's up, everybody? Hoping that you can hear me. We're in a scuffed stream situation, continuing to be so since it is technically Thanksgiving week. And so I'm not in my usual streaming setup. But hopefully you can still hear me. Those of you who stopped by earlier for the Counterpoint stream, welcome back. For those of you who maybe didn't get to see it, welcome for the first time. Sounds better than usual. Wait, really? You guys prefer this mic? No, this is my childhood bed, and I did not make this bed. Because I just arrived today. So, and it was made when I got here. So I assume someone made it. We're not going to revisit the Connor insanity on such a festive evening. No. We're here to discuss some shit that happened in the real world and then the response to the shit that happened in the real world. And it goes to show you that there is no depth beneath which the current slate of MAGA propagandist shills, the bootlicking shills on X, in the White House, all over, are willing to go to. There is literally nothing beyond them. We are witnessing some of the most degenerate conduct that I have ever witnessed of any political movement. They are seriously, like, testing the line. Like, they're really, you can't put anything past them at all. And it relates to a tragedy that occurred today. A tragedy that occurred today that unfortunately, may, hopefully not, right, cost the lives of 2 service members. That is to say, there was a crime that took place. An attempted murder, assassination. There was mixed reporting coming out of the initial what happened, but in DC, somebody shot 2 members of the National Guard. And in the wake of that tragedy, this crime, universal condemnation among everybody. Democrats, I challenge anybody to find you can find a person, a weirdo, okay? And we'll get into some of the examples that were being sent my way by some of these reply guys of allegedly encouraging violence rhetoric by Democrats or left-leaning people. You know, you'll see what some of those examples were. They're hilarious. But certainly in the context of this specific crime, you know, I instantly retweeted Gavin Newsom, who I thought had like a very strong condemnation. Anyone who knows me knows I do not stand for the violence. I always condemn the violence. I did it when it was against Trump right away. As soon as I heard it, put out a tweet, condemn the violence. Same thing with Charlie Kirk. And I don't fuck around with that. We have people who come in the chat all the time. Not all the time, overstating it. There are occasionally people who are like, you can't just rely on peaceful methods, bro. Like, it's all over black pillars. I don't even know if they're Fed posting. I don't know what they're doing. But they'll come into the stream occasionally and be like, we just gotta like get ready for war, man. And I'm always the one being like, no. That is not justified. That's not okay. Thank you so much, Isaiah. I know, I am taking them all on. Because here's the thing, guys. Thank you so much for the super chat, Isaiah. He says, quote, briefly scrolling through Twitter and Pisco in his Optimus Prime, quote, I'll take you all on. Error right now. Here's the reason. They are not going to scare me, one, or shame me when I have the correct position. All right? And I will stand on business for that position and in defense of this country and our freedoms against any number of them. This massive horde of MAGA reply guys. I don't give a shit. You know me, all right? When I get into these discussions, debates, and I think I'm right, because I know I'm right now, I don't care. I will go against any consensus at any time. My own opinion is good enough for me. And I happen to believe I'm right. And I think the true patriots among the chatters right now, and even among my following, understand why I'm so obviously correct. So we'll talk about what the different contentions are, the different issues that have arisen. But universal condemnation for this attempted assassination, this attempted bushwhacking crime among leading Democrats. I challenge you to find someone who says something to the effect of like, this is good. This is what we wanted. I tell you, we do not even yet have confirmation about the status of these two National Guard service members, apparently from West Virginia. The West Virginia governor says they're dead. Kash Patel says they're not dead, just in critical condition. Side point here, but kind of important. I don't know why we keep having these comms fuck-ups where we're like, oh, Charlie Kirk is good. No, he's not. Or he's, critical. No, he's not. Or that we found him. No, we didn't. Like, can we just, like, before we start blasting off with, material, very, very important updates, that we actually get the facts out first, that we take a minute before we just go on Twitter? That's one of the problems with this, like, me, I am always criticizing the Democrats because they don't play the game anymore that we have to play. But one of the problems, unfortunately, we have to play this game of constant optics, 100% all the time, signal boost and stuff. But like one of the degenerate results of this new 100% online, constantly active engagement situations are people are chomping at the bit immediately to have strong takes and to have confirmations of facts before we know them. Even right now, we are in a situation where there's not certainty on stuff. And I'll go through one of those very funny potential and not yet confirmed difficulties and contradictions perhaps in some of the narratives that have already been painted and that already are being adjusted to try to match the emerging facts. But it doesn't matter, in some sense, what the facts are. Anytime like someone is killed in this country in like a tragic or horrible circumstance or in what appears to be targeted circumstances, you could just rely 100% that the entire MAGA media infrastructure will, in a second, start theory crafting and spinning outright lies and fabrications to their audience the second something like this happens. The second. And they reveal themselves for who they are when this shit occurs. And it's not just, by the way, horrible volitional acts by other human beings. It's also disasters, right? Natural disasters. Anything that like affects people, their first instinct is always, how do we weaponize this? How do we spin it? Yeah, no, I'm not gonna wake them up, right? they're not asleep. And my dad, unfortunately, is no longer with us. But he's somewhere. He's in the spirit plane somewhere, watching this. Anyway, what was I gonna say? But thank you so much for super chat. Super chat. I'll read them out because they're not coming up. Don't wake up Mama and Papa Pisco. They're just trying to have a nice holiday. That doesn't devolve into political discussions again. That's half the fun. Are the political discussions on in the holidays? Do you guys not do that? Listen, part of this is something I just like to do. I like to be engaged in these conversations, and I like to have heated conversations. But don't let my usual tendency to have these kind of forceful arguments hide or obscure the fact that, like, what's going on in the media ecosystem for MAGA is fucked beyond belief and untenable. So untenable. Like, we can't have a functioning electorate and like this level of malevolence, this level of intentional viciousness and deceptiveness. It is so beyond the pale. So let's get into some of it. So instantly, when these two National Guard, there's this report that the National Guard people are shot, instantly, what is being said? The Democrats are responsible. Now follow this logic, right? We don't know why these people were shot. We don't know if these National Guard members were like going to stop a robbery or something. We don't know if it's some kind of ideological terrorism, like a religious terrorism, like anti-Israel terrorism, I don't know what you want to say, like pro-Islamism or Islamic extremist terrorism. We don't know if it's a crazy person, right? We don't know jack shit about the actual beliefs of these individuals. And to some extent, it doesn't even matter, right? It doesn't even matter, because what they're trying to do is say, well, you guys said something that we didn't like, that we have taken this absurd view that this is inciting of violence, and we'll get into that. And therefore, that is itself criminal violence. When you criticize the government and say, hey, maybe you don't follow illegal orders, maybe this is executive overreach, maybe this is looking a little bit fascistic, that is equivalent to violence. And so they already have that narrative in their head. So they have military service people killed, and the instant connection is, well, Democrats said something we didn't like about the military, and therefore they're responsible for this death. The blood is on their hands. So notice the two levels. The first is, we don't actually know the causality here, right? Sometimes it takes months and months, years to find out the causality of these shooters' beliefs. We're still figuring stuff out. Even the MAGA people are upset with the crooks stuff on the Trump shooter, that they're not getting the full information they feel, and it's kind of like ambiguous. Who knows what's going on there? So that's the first layer, is the actual causality. And then second, culpability. Separate, right? You could say anything that causally results in someone doing something crazy. There probably is a causal connection between who's the actor from Silence of the Lambs, the woman, oh my god, so famous. See a lot, Dr. Lecter. You guys know the name. It might start with a J. Jodie Foster. Yeah. So she probably has some causal relationship with the shooting of the guy, right, like of Reagan. Certainly Salinger, right, with Catcher in the Rye. There's maybe some causal nexus there, or like the Beatles or whatever the shit is, right? There, in terms of things that these people did, expressions they had, who they were, causally related to the atrocity that occurred. But there's a separate question there of culpability. Well, any freakoid can take words that people are using and from that conclude, I need to do something horrible. But it's not the case that we say that the mere causal connection, even if it were the case, even if this were established, leads to the kind of culpability that we're talking about here. You're responsible. The blood is on your hands, right? Typically, we want to see more than just mere words when it comes to culpability. But put all of that aside, right? We are minutes away, minutes away from the news dropping. And they're already saying Democrats called for this to happen. I'm not exaggerating. These people are saying that this is what Democrats wanted. We know this is what they wanted. It is such an illogical conclusion to draw. Democrats do not want this kind of shit to occur. This justifies, in Trump's mind, greater overreach from the administration. And it will cause greater backlash. And it has the potential to shift narratives, right? If it's the case that the administration finds a way to put the blame on Democrats. These are like wild cards that can benefit the administration at a time when the Democrats are like outperforming everything. Trump's approval ratings are going down. It just doesn't even make from a logical perspective. Democrats want to see rank and file servicemen and women die. They don't even believe it, and if they do, they're deranged. Because tactically, strategically, it doesn't make any fucking sense. They also have no proof for it. They have no proof at all for it. And if anything, right, the evidence seems to be that they're giddy, and you can almost sense this fervor of, oh yes, finally, right? Because they've been fighting each other. We can just unite and put all this baggage, Epstein files to the side, like that. They're just so anxious to wield it politically. And so I think it's totally a self-report in terms of what they're thinking, right? What they're thinking is, this is giving us talking points. This is, we're able to go attack people and call them terrorists and do what we like to do, which is do demagoguery, bombastic rhetoric that is not connected to reality. But certainly there's no, even just think about it, it's a deluded notion that for which there's no evidence. It's not even intuitively, it makes sense that Democrats would want this, right? They just won. I want to repeat. You guys might not know this. Thank you so much, Fasraka. Wow, $50 donated because your streams motivated me to actually take the LSAT. It went relatively well. Congratulations. And if relatively well, if you're happy with your score, apply. Why not apply? If you want to retake, no shame in it whatsoever. But thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I was saying something. I was going somewhere, but thank you so much for the super chat. Oh, you might not know this, guys, because it kind of passed under some people's radars. The Democrats who are litigating this, the head attorney in the Washington, D.C. area, they just won the National Guard deployment case in D.C. They just won it. Now, the order was stayed pending disposition in the appellate court, but why would the Democrats want, in the context in which they just won that litigation, which was ruled an unlawful deployment, that the Democrats would want a further pretext to fuck with their litigation wins, right? And now Trump has just called additional members to the DC to DC. So strategically, it makes no sense whatsoever that Democratic leadership is like happy and smiling about this. if anything, to the extent that there's vindication for Democrats, it's like, well, we understand that the administration is looking for pretexts all the time. And no one is saying that, like, these DC National Guard people, they were like doing dangerous activities, and so Trump necessarily was doing something totally irresponsible in terms of he should have expected this to occur in that sense. Well, maybe some people are saying that, but like I'm certainly not saying it. Causally, right? You can make a causal connection that if they weren't there, these people wouldn't be fired at. But I don't think it's like a particularly good point. But the point is kind of different, that the presence of the National Guard, when service people are killed in the United States, whether abroad or domestically, it's a big deal. It's a bigger deal to the American psyche than a cop being killed or some other public servant being killed. An American troop being killed, that is like insane levels of concern across the country. A lot of it, I think, is done in bad faith. A lot of it is opportunistic. But that is the case that everyone recognizes. And so some things that Democrats have been saying for a time is like having military deployments, just by having them, is going to raise the chance perhaps that something negative happens, that there's a shooting of some kind. Just their presence in situations in which they're usually not present, in situations in which potentially, and think about what the actual rationale is of the administration. The actual rationale of the administration is to lower violent crime in these cities. That's their stated rationale, among others, to help ICE enforcement. And in their minds, right, the ICE enforcements, these are things that are highly dangerous, even though they're going after mostly people who are not violent. Unlike previous administrations, they're not going after violent criminals. They're going after people who are not violent criminals. Most of the new detentions, I saw a stat, and Katie Miller talked about it a little bit too, are not violent criminals. But put that to the side. The whole basis for the Trump administration's deployment seems to be related to the presence of violent activities. So that's their stated rationale, and obviously the Democrats are concerned both for the health and welfare, in my opinion, of the National Guard members themselves, but the complications related to it from a structural perspective, namely the potential situation in which something happens to a service member, and now all of a sudden we ramp up the authoritarianism. And that's something that's been talked about. And it's not wrong to talk about that shit. It's so crazy we live in this world that I'm being sent these clips of Democratic senators, essentially saying, yeah, we're concerned that, what if something happens and raises tensions and, Trump uses this to have additional authority. That's like bread and butter for Republicans for decades. They've always talked about that shit. They say that about every shooting, right? Every shooting that doesn't involve an immigrant, a black person, or who they take to be a left-leaning person, they say that it's probably an opt to take away guns. And oftentimes I think that's in bad faith, but the mere discussion of that is not itself violent rhetoric. And especially in this administration, in this context, when we have so many examples of Trump using pretexts to claim greater executive overreach, whether that's at the border, whether that's internally, whether that's when Big Balls got hit by those, kids and assaulted, they'll take any opportunity they can, any pretext to justify greater executive overreach. Anyway, so that's going on. And it is practically is there a single person among the MAGA influencer class that refrains from doing so? Seriously, think about it. Like, do you think that there's a single MAGA influencer type journalist, type pundit who refrained from saying, this is war, this is what the Democrats want? A single one, a single Trump pundit type person who said, hey guys, now is not the time. We don't know stuff. Let's hold out. Let's not point fingers. We don't know what's going on. Can you point to me? Can anyone I will put $100 on the line. Find me that Trump, and it has to be a real Trump MAGA influencer. You know what I'm talking about? That says, we don't know the facts yet, and let's not start throwing things around before we know the information. Anybody that you can cite to. Of course not. This is not expected. They're expected to behave like children all the time. And we'll talk about how that manifests. Well, I want to talk about it right now, right? They fly off the handle, and all principles got out the window whenever they feel that they could take advantage of it. Right? When a bunch of kids get massacred in Sandy Hook, what is the Republican response? The Republican response is, this is a crazy person. Unfortunately, we need to stand by freedom. This is the cost of freedom. That's what Charlie Kirk said, right? And even in the context of these horrible tragedies, the response cannot be to further infringe on our rights. Remember, the Second Amendment is the cornerstone to protect against tyranny, to protect against monarchy, to protect against the end of the republic. We need the Second Amendment. So yes, it's horrible this happens. We should try to limit it with additional mental health checks and additional oversight to make sure that people are getting the mental health treatments they need. But we cannot compromise on freedom, specifically the Second Amendment. We can't do that. And it's especially important now in the aftermath of these attacks to let the people know that we're not compromising on freedoms, because it's precisely in these moments when these kinds of horrific tragedies that no one can anticipate happen that we must be the firmest on freedoms. That's the typical response to a white crazed shooter, right? Like a white shooter at a school where dozens are killed, right? That is the typical response. And it's not even something in principle that I think is shameful. If you really do believe in this right, if you take it as sometimes I think it's done in a very grotesque way, or done in a manner that I think is inconsistent with what the Second Amendment actually means. So I can take issues with the underlying right, but there's nothing inherently wrong with someone saying something like, hey, it's at these tense moments where the public outrage is the highest that we need to round down into our rights and protect the rights, because it's in the heat of passion that we can lose our senses and give away freedoms and start to usher in a new era of tyrannical government. What was the response today? Well, let me just start off by saying Elon Musk says ban people, criminally penalize people for attempted murder, incitement to murder, if you call someone incorrectly a fascist. So this was Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk, who said, I'm buying X in Twitter. This is the person who, counterpoints today, was kind of pseudo-glazing a little bit, Starship and shit. I'm all about the First Amendment. You just have to make sure that you're accepting the First Amendment. He says, if you call someone a fascist and you're objectively wrong, you get hit with attempted murder incitement. That's what Elon Musk says. Every single one saying, yes, charge them with murder for what they said. Not the guy who did the shooting, the people who said, follow the law, you military guys, in a totally different context, right? Speaking to service people, not speaking to people, right? Like, imagine the delusion it would entail to think that when Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin, these pretty dry senators, they're sending these dark messages through nudge, nudge, wink, wink at all the fucking crazies by directing their comments at service members and saying, hey, you have the right to disobey illegal orders. And what they mean by that is go kill the National Guard. And the messengers, the spokesperson that they send to do that is Mark Kelly, Alyssa Slotkin, and these other dry as fuck, middle of the road centrist Democrats. Jesus Christ. That's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe that. And in response to that, all of a sudden, do they have the we need to really just stick by the First Amendment, and at time, like, you know, these tragedies happen, and so when these tragedies happens, like, we need to stick by our rights. No, they say, throw out the First Amendment. We don't need it anymore. Yoink, it's gone. Other ones I see, we don't need due process. Shoot him immediately. Okay, so we're throwing that out the window too. And then you have Kevin Sorbo, Hercules, and Laura Loomer, and probably others saying, I want a king right now. So when it's their sensed political vulnerability, like, we need to protect our rights because otherwise we might have authoritarianism. But when they feel that the sensitivities are more with the Democrats because they can take advantage of it and weaponize it, and at this point it's starting to become every tragedy just because of their media, the totalizing media structure they have of liars, grifters, etc. Then it's like, it's not, oh, we need to stick by freedoms to protect against tyranny. It's, we need a king right now. Give me a fucking king. We don't need republics anymore, and fucking all the rights go away. These people, these are the people who give away their rights for free. Right? They don't value them. They are deniable. They are power worshippers. They are government bootlicking shills. When they're out of power, they say things like, oh my God, I can't believe that this FISA warrant, it doesn't have a period after where the judge signed their name. And so that's such a violation of Trump's rights, right? They're like, Trump's constitutional rights were infringed because Carter Page, a foreign policy advisor, a water boy who wasn't important in the slightest, who was disassociated with the campaign at the time that there was a warrant executed against him, and who the campaign disclaimed any connection to. Trump's rights are vindicated because they have a defective warrant. And they're like, oh my God, how can we live? How can we live when Carter Page, some guy who's not even part of the campaign anymore, dude, it is all lies. It's all lies. They don't give a shit about these freedoms. They're government bootlicking shills. And the second there's an ounce there, imagine what these people, I mean, we had these types of people back in the day in 9/11. People like, how could it be that America had the Patriot Act and the NSA? How could it be that the American people were duped into doing these wars? Like, you guys are the most obvious marks that have ever been. The most obvious marks there have ever been. You would fall in line 100% of the time. 100 out of 100. Not a principled bone in their body. And is there a single MAGA influencer that says, well, hold on, guys. The First Amendment matters a lot to me. And so you might say what you want to say, that this is irresponsible speech. Give me a break. But you can't criminalize. Not a single one. Because they're all degenerate scum. And the right response is anger. The right response is anger. Not like because you support the shooter. You have to be a total dipshit to think that Democrats, A, support the shooter, who they don't know who the fuck it is. We don't know who it is. We don't know why they shot. So the anger that I'm expressing, and that ought be expressed, doesn't relate to like a support for people shooting rank and file service people. But that's how dishonest they have to be. I'll show you my the tweet that Tim Pool quote tweeted me, and he's like, he's on the side of the shooter. Dude, fuck you. Now, Tim, if you want to have me on your show to debate this proposition, happy to do it. But that is a lie. That is a whopper. And everyone knows when they read that tweet where I'm like, be angry. Don't give them MAGA freaks an inch. Increase your opposition to their deception and delusions and ridicule them relentlessly. I'll show you the tweet. Only a liar could possibly interpret that as, we want more shooters. We want to kill more service people. There's just no connection between a sentiment which is like, hey, stop lying about the shooting, and we want more shooting. What the fuck? They're liars. They're liars. And if they genuinely believe that expression, and I'll show it to you right now. Why don't I just show it to you? If they actually believed that this expression right here means I support the shooter on the side of the Afghan shooter, right? I made this tweet before it was announced this guy's an Afghan, right? Allegedly, right? Because who the fuck knows? What if they get it wrong? There's like a shooter I don't know. Only a lying, grifting asshole could read this statement directed at lies about the shooter as I'm on the side of the shooter. And when I'm talking about lies about the shooter, it's lies not like because I want to protect the shooter's honor. It's lies because you guys, right, are politicizing and weaponizing before the facts are in, right? I would condemn it even if we knew for certain this person was some crazed, deranged resistance lib. I would still say there's no culpability for the statements uttered by the different senators, right? You'd have to show me the statements were actually advocating illegal conduct, violent conduct, or that they were like somehow in cahoots with this person. But especially minutes after this is occurring, no, fuck you. Your response needs to be anger and contempt for everyone doing this. They are ruining this country with their lies, constant, and there is no depth they won't sink beneath. This is another example. This guy, like, I'm surprised he can fucking get out of bed in the morning and put on his press pass. I'm pretty sure this guy probably has a press pass to the fucking White House press pool. Jack Posobiec has one. Absolutely deranged. Absolutely deranged. And there's more. Like, look at Cam Higbee. With no fucking evidence whatsoever. There's nobody, right? Like, there is no indication whatsoever that Democrats would plausibly benefit from this action politically, strategically, right? Like, what kind of moron do you have to be to think that shooting a service member is going to cause the administration to back down on their deployments? It will obviously have the opposite effect, as is being shown now. So what kind of idiot do you have to be to think that this kind of action is going to help anyone on the issue of the deployments? What's going to help the deployments perhaps is once we have rulings of law about the deployments or popular support against the deployments. But that's not helped or buoyed by deranged shooters attacking service people. One thing that was helping our case were the recent rulings, including one last week on DC itself. This is so stupid as to, in my opinion, it's not questionable. This is deception. This is malicious. This person is a degenerate scumfuck. I'll debate him any day on this. All right. When I call these people these names, it's because, in my opinion, it's true. Doesn't mean I won't debate them. They're the cowards, right? And we'll see some more cowards. 100%. Any day. I mean, unless I'm fucking already booked for something or I'm in Thanksgiving dinner or some shit. But like, with reasonable accommodations, I will debate all these fucking fools. And I have done so. I will talk to these people. So it's not about that. This is malice. And you have to see it for what it is. So don't think that these people are your friends. Don't think that these people are your friends. They are snakes, and they are knowingly lying. And look at the response here. The response here is self-report. You guys are the ones who are doing this. Like, this is literally Cam Higbee. Cam Higbee goes on camera minutes after to do this like melodramatic, instant emotional reaction where he's spreading. I guess it's not even true anymore that these service people actually died. So he is so gung-ho to immediately film himself having this emotional response. It reminds me, by the way, of Dave Portnoy. Portnoy goes after Joe Biden because he delayed an hour in making some statement on camera about the Trump shooting, right? It was like an hour. He was in church and he was like whisked away to be apprised of what's going on. And every second Portnoy was like, why? Because these guys, this is what's most important for them. Not to make sure they're accurate, not to make sure that, the country is doing well, not to make sure that they're, doing due diligence so far as they're upholding their commitments to the extent that there are any, regarding their audiences and their profession. This guy professes to be a journalist. He's not, I guess in some loose sense, he's a journalist. He's a provocateur. He goes on college campuses to talk shit and soy out about black people. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, whatever. I don't think that he should be banned from campuses or whatever. I'm so in favor of debating conservatives. These guys suck at debate. They suck at ideas. They suck at analysis. They get caught every fucking day, every second in contradictions constantly. But he's a provocateur. And it's a self-report because that's what they want, this virtue signal right away. And they want to put out the information right away because they want to farm engagement right away. That's what's on their mind. Funneling a mob against Democrats who have done nothing wrong related to this issue. Nothing wrong related to this issue. And will show how the narrative morphs and changes. So in response, he goes, they're Nazis. They're there to kill Americans. They're there to arrest Americans. It's fascism. They're stormtroopers. They're breaking the oath. Why would someone kill them? It's terrible. So none of this, absolutely none of this, is inconsistent whatsoever. I happen to think, even if these were my ideas about the National Guard, a lot of them are not. I don't think the National Guard are Nazis. I don't think that the National Guard are there with the purpose, with the conscious object to kill Americans. That's not my position at all. I don't even think that it's ISIS' conscious object to kill Americans. At least it's currently formed. We'll see. They're a little cavalier about aiming their guns sometimes. And certainly the hiring pool is, we have our issues there, and I have no problem calling them a fascist unit whatsoever. ISIS currently operating. No problem with that whatsoever. But I don't say that it's their conscious object, that their purpose is to kill Americans. I don't say that. But just put that aside. Even if I granted that these were my positions, there's not a contradiction. I think that Trump is a fascist. I don't think that he should be killed by vigilante justice. There's no contradiction in that position. There is no contradiction in that position. I think the best and only way to get rid of Trumpism is to discredit it at the ballot box with our system. That has been my long-standing position. Everyone knows it. There is no contradiction. Now, I happen to think he is a fascist. Just like you guys happen to think that Zohran Mamdani is a communist. You called Joe Biden a communist. You called Kamala Harris a communist. You said that about Hillary Clinton. Obama. The list goes on. And you know what you guys mean by communist and what is entailed by your vision of communism is that these people are unhumans. That was Jack Posobiec's book, Glazing Generalissimo Franco. His book is called Unhumans. They think that communism is a disease. They think that communists don't deserve to live. They can't breathe the same air as communists. And they call everyone and their aunt communists. This point is not like a new point I'm coming up with. Everyone knows that. But do I say, because, you call them communists if one of them gets killed, that's because you incited them to do so? No, of course not. There's no inconsistency in saying, hey, these are dirty, dirty, unhuman communists, but they should not be killed. Either principally because you think it's wrong to do those kinds of murders, or because you think it's strategically not in the interest of your movement to do so. No inconsistency, even if I granted these positions. But these are lies. These are lies. Who are they calling Nazis? Like the people are calling ICE brown shirts and Gestapo. That's who they're calling. No one's calling rank and file. And if they are, and we'll see them like the examples, right, that were given to me. It's like anarchist accounts, some radicals that are nowhere near power and are not influential in the slightest. in the slightest. Sometimes they're saying like this, the weaponization, the domestic deployment of the military is fascistic, but they're not calling these rank and file military people fascists. If they thought that, right? Think about the glaring contradiction in their theory, right? If they thought that these people, the rank and file members of the armed services, including the National Guard, were fascists, why would they make appeals to committed fascists to not follow illegal orders? Make it make sense, right? If it's the case that it's the widespread belief of Democrats, or at least some prominent amount of Democrats, that these National Guard troops, the rank and file, right? The rank and file, that they're fascists, why even bother making appeals to committed fascists to not follow illegal laws? Absurdity, stupidity, like they don't even think about it. They just type random shit and their drooling orangutan audience filled with Neanderthals and sub 5 IQ brainlets. Just in the reply, it's they're not even conscious. I have to say something. I can't believe these are real human beings. It's got to be bots. It's got to be the. Now we have the new system, right, from X, so we can find out where these accounts are coming from. And so you can go through the thread. No one is saying that the National Guard, that their conscious object, that their intent is to kill Americans. They're not saying that. They're not saying that. What they're saying in litigation, all the major Democrats, what they're saying in public presses is, hey, can we have control of our National Guard back, please? We would like to use, if you're Gavin Newsom, right? We want to use the National Guard to do all these different projects because we, rely on them for different things that they do. And so it's really costing us. It's not, oh, we hate the National Guard, let's disband our units. What are the Democrats saying? They're saying, give it back to the states, let them control them. It's incoherent. They don't say that about ICE because ICE has particular problems. But what Cam Higbee wants to do is A, conflate all of these criticisms of ICE with criticisms of the National Guard. B, conflate these criticisms in general with calls for violence when there's no entailment whatsoever, not even a convincing argument, really. I think if you ask most Democrats, do you think that there should be this kind of violence enacted against everyone you think is by random Afghan immigrants? They're not going to support this shit, dude. It's a LARP. It's a complete LARP. This guy might be the dumbest. I think I'm going to reach out Wick to have a one-on-one discussion with this loser, Jebtan. He always is the most obnoxious dipshit in the replies. And he's like, this is absurd. It's absurd. What's absurd? This is absurd. There absolutely have been statements made like that about armed forces in general, aimed towards those doing Trump's bidding on U.S. soil. So no specifics whatsoever about what Cam Higbee's examples are, right? Doing Trump's bidding on U.S. soil. This guy's so stupid. It is going to be so much fun to just watch him twist himself into pretzels. Are any of these statements, the National Guard is doing Trump's bidding? Who would even deny that? That's not even something that's deniable. That's just true. But it's also not something Cam Higbee said, right? Is anything in there? They're doing Trump's bidding on U.S. soil? Which is just factually accurate. The argument, I don't know where Jeb 10 has been. Maybe he's in some sensory deprivation chamber where he doesn't have access to basic communication. And maybe he's English is a second or third language, and so he's just unable to, I don't know, he has some translator, and he's unable to really express coherent thoughts, and so someone else is doing some kind of interpretation of these words and writing on his Twitter. But the argument from the conservatives isn't that the National Guard and armed services aren't doing what Trump is asking. Their argument is it would be absurd if they didn't. Right? You understand that the argument from conservatives is, who the fuck are these judges telling Trump how to command the military and telling him how we can adjust the National Guard, right? And so look, Jeb Tan is so stupid that he picks an example of like a potentially absurd and inflammatory statement, which wasn't even one of Cam Higby's list of statements. That isn't something that I ever contested, as though I contested it, on a proposition that is so obviously true, because no one argues it, right? Conservatives are just arguing that if it weren't the case that they were doing Trump's bidding on U.S. soil, it would be a coup by the courts. So you actually have to have diseased worms in your brain to have come up with something like it. It's surprising. I actually am impressed because this is like the type of triggering comment that is most apt to get me fucking riled up, because it's wrong on every conceivable level. It's wrong on what we're even talking about of the meta of this discussion relating to specific statements that Cam Higby is saying and what I'm responding to. So I'm not even responding to that. It's a proposition I wouldn't deny. It's a proposition that MAGA wouldn't deny. They would only deny the normative situation if it were otherwise, right? If some other entity had control of the military on U.S. soil. But that's what I mean. I don't know that Jeb Tan is like one of these. I would put Cam Higby squarely in the knowing, malicious, deceptive liar. Jeb Tan, he literally might be one of the dumber commentators and people that I see around. Like, it is wild. And then so I keep pushing him like, the quotes are not being provided. Like, where are the quotes? And instead of like providing a quote that would contest my skepticism, he just keeps saying, they're there. Just scroll them. They're there. If they were there, you guys ever see this, by the way, where someone's like, there's proof. There's proof. Go search this, right? If there were proof, you would be shutting me up. If there were proof, you would be providing for it. It would be trivially easy. You're even saying that it's there. And so rather than doing these long replies about how it's so absurd, I'm asking you for proof or asking you for more specifics, you would just provide the specifics. Methinks he doth protest too much. If it's always like that, right? Oh, I condemn this. Go search my entire video archive. I don't have the time. Like, if you had the goods, if you knew where they were, you would get them. You would be getting them, and you would be shutting me up. More to come. So we start to get different information as the narrative, and this is a tragic. The reason I'm laughing, it should not be taken as that it's trivial to me that this crime took place. It's just I'm so exasperated. I don't know what other response would be. Like, I don't really, it's just like almost an involuntary response. It is so absurd, so ridiculous that I can do nothing but laugh. We start to get images of who this person is and little leaks about where he comes from. Turns out, at least the best current information is, this guy is an Afghan national from Afghanistan, potentially brought over after the withdrawal of Afghanistan or around that time, 2021, something like that. Okay? So that's, all of a sudden, they're like, oh, let me think. Is an Afghan national, does this really strike the kind of profile that we're trying to paint of the Mark Kelly listeners and Alyssa Slotkin listeners? Like, they're all, he's tuned in to Democratic talking points and consensus about Democrats. Maybe he is. I mean, who knows? Who the fuck knows? I'm not saying he's not, but it's not fitting the profile so much of like what they're looking for. What they're looking for is someone who would have been pushed to do this by these centrist Democrats. That's the kind of, and the truth is, come on. And the truth is, Democrats really aren't that prone to violence. We have our crazy people, whatever. But the Democrats who are like the centrist enjoyers, come on. They're not the problem in this country, all right? Radicals on the left, sure. Disaffected young people, sure. Crazy people, sure. But it's almost like saying the never Trumpers the neocons, are they really doing, like, the violence that they're doing is like forcing the state to, like, I don't know, do some kind of war abroad or something, you know? But in terms of like these shootings, let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. It's not fitting their profile of the resistance lib who went out there to just, he was so infuriated by what Mark Kelly said. When Mark Kelly said, you don't have to follow illegal orders, he was so infuriated, he went and shot a National Guard member. That's the story that they're trying to pick. It's obviously like a highly dubious story for which there's no evidence, and even just like your sanity check, like, oh, that doesn't really like sound like like. And if someone takes that as like a call to do something, like, there's so many inferential leaps that are required to make that even make sense, you know. And so the guy comes out and it's like, okay, it's an Afghan national, and so now the angle isn't these are splinter cell secret resistance lib wine moms who have been radicalized by Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin, right? And therefore you're guilty, you fucking Democrat. And watch all my replies, right? All the replies where I'm calling out the lies being told specifically about Democrats and their inflammatory rhetoric, their calls to violence as interpreted by these psychos. And now they're all saying, well, the Democrats are responsible. You were wrong the whole time because they were brought in under Biden, this guy. So you're wrong. When I tell you their brains don't work or they're subhuman liars who don't care if they're telling the truth, like, it's one of those two things. Like, I said that you guys are lying about what Democrats said and what the calls for violence allegedly were. And you come back, you think you're so great. You think that you were right. We just got the facts in. And it turns out you're wrong, Pisco. He's an Afghan. What? What does that have to do with anything? With anything? If anything, it shows you that, and again, we don't know that this isn't a resistance lib Afghan brought over. And like, I'm not even saying that we don't know for certain that he was radicalized by Mark Kelly and Alyssa Slotkin, but it doesn't quite fit the profile that much. But what the fuck does that have to do with anything? What I'm telling you now is stop lying. And we know it's a lie right now because you don't have enough information to come up with that assessment. There just is no way for you to have that confidence level. So you're lying about your confidence level. You're lying. It's a lie. And now watch this. They go, Biden's responsible. This is CNN.
What we know is that he comes here from Afghanistan. Now, this is a guy who's been living in Washington State, not Washington, D.C., on the other end of the country. He comes here from Afghanistan in the summer of 2021. Remember what that was like. Refugees fleeing Afghanistan, people had to be recommended by U.S. people on one end, vetted on this end by government background checks as far as they could do in Afghanistan, have sponsors and so on. He settled in Washington. He applies for asylum in December of 2024. Now he goes through another vetting process involving that, and he's approved for asylum in April of this year.
I don't know if this is true. But imagine that it is. It's CNN reporting. Granted asylum, April of this year. Who's in charge of the asylum process in April of 2025? How are you going to pin that one on Biden, huh? I thought you were making everything more secure. You canceled asylum for 95% of people, but you granted it to this guy. You think for a second we're going to get any walkbacks of the second backdrop argument after you had already failed your burden of proof for the resistance lib, Alyssa Slotkin obsessed killer? You think we're going to get any walkbacks if it turns out to be the case that the Trump 2.0 administration granted asylum to the guy who did these killings? But it was so relevant that he entered into this country in 2021, you granted him asylum. Don't expect it. Don't expect a walk back. Don't expect apologies. Don't expect putting like, okay, well, maybe Trump shouldn't have done this. Don't expect any of it. They have no shame. They have no shame. Principled people like me, like, if this came out and I had come like to some accusation of Trump that was like really untenable, really untenable, after some facts come out, immediately be like, oh yeah, okay, I guess we was wrong about that. That's what it is like to have a backbone. That's what it's like to have principles. Don't expect it from these losers, these scumbag losers. Let's see if there's any updates here. So Trump says,
assaults on law and order by people who shouldn't even be in our country. We must now re-examine every
doesn't sound good, by the way. It sounds like an old fuck.
Single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and
granted asylum under who? Granted asylum under who? I just, there is no words for the depravity of this administration. They are going to use this incident to try to justify further authoritarian aims and further encroachments of rights. And that's why you need to be angry at their lies. Do not say that you're indifferent about these kinds of killings. I said this about Charlie Kirk. Thank you so much, Sarah Lloyd. What do you think is the statistical likelihood of USA entering a hot civil war under MAGA? I don't think it's very high. I think it's low. I think it's less than 1%. But thank you so much for the super chat. I was consistent. I condemn these acts of violence wholeheartedly. I said that about the Charlie Kirk stuff, all of it. But here's where you can't give an inch. You cannot stop being vigilant and strong and base as fuck and withering in your opposition, peaceful opposition, words, we're talking about words here, against these scumfuck traitors. There is no consensus to be built with these people. They don't have the basic human character where such a consensus can be had. We just need to win. Victory is the only thing that matters. There is no consensus to be built. There is nothing to integrate with MAGA. MAGA is the disease, the metaphoric disease, that needs to be cured. It's not something with which we can live as a country. Every single person who is doing propaganda for the regime needs to be discredited and, in your minds, fought against. And if you start like, I don't know, going after and saying, well, maybe they shouldn't have said that, you need to re-examine your life. Go take a long walk to the beach. Go take a long walk in the woods and get your shit and put it all together. Because that is some cucked shit. Not while I draw breath. These people, metaphorically, in the marketplace of ideas and in elections, crucially, election, if you live in fucking Tennessee this Tuesday in that whatever district, the 7th district, I don't know. Ruthless, constant, on their ass in the replies, liking all the base people. We are fighting with the Rock Lee weights on our legs. Doesn't matter. Effort just needs to be raised even more. Yeah, Cuck Schumer, I don't want him to be the leader anymore. Is that going to stop me in terms of my opposition to this administration, this regime? This regime is a cancer. It is a plague. And everyone who is a party to it, including and especially the political leaders who have been installed in positions of authority. This is why I'm not going to let up on counterpoints. He's pussyfooting with J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is not just a symptom. Not merely a symptom. He is culpable for this shit. For the degeneracy of our culture and our conversation, our national conversation, where it's constant lies. And you really, I like Connor, and I think that he has a good head on his shoulders, and I'm certainly going to like collab and stuff with him, but we just need to, we can't be pretending that this is anywhere close to where Zoran Mamdani is. Or Bernie Sanders. You'd have to be a jackass to think that. What? Because they want something you don't even consider to be socialist, right? They don't even think it's socialist, because like they laugh at me. I'm like, well, don't you think it's a socialist policy to have like Medicare for all? Like, no, that's not socialist. That's not a socialist policy. So you can't say it's socialist. All right, well, that's what they want. He doesn't want like a full on. It doesn't matter to them, and the only thing they have is like he's hiding his power levels. Sorry to bring it back to counterpoints, but like seriously, this is like a. It needs to always be clear who the enemy is. Sarah Lloyd, thank you again. You think the risk of a hot civil war is low because the liberals will kowtow, or because the right will kowtow in the long term? And I think the right will kowtow much more willingly due to no plans. I just think that there's not a stomach for it. That a lot of this is very online. And I think the American people don't want that. So I don't think there's an appetite for it. If it happens, it would be like a unilateral act of the executive branch that would like start to fuck with the states, perhaps. But even then, I think that there are reasons why I don't think it would be effective. One of the reasons is I think that I think the response to that would be overwhelmingly like mass peaceful civil disobedience and resistance. That would be effective. So I don't think it's very, very likely. And I don't even know what it would look like in this context. Like drone strikes in the internal of the country. Like I don't think people have the appetite for it. They're also like, they're incompetent. These guys suck. People aren't buying this shit. Like they're trying to spin Mark Kelly's comments as like this call to lawless action and violence. No one believes that shit. No one who doesn't already believe or pretend to believe that was like a violent rhetoric, no one's buying that shit. Because just listen to Mark Kelly for 2 seconds. Anyway, thoughts. Any haters? Where are my haters? I just don't know what to say about this like issue. Tim Pool quote tweets me, clearly snipes it, and says, "I'm on the side of the shooter." Who's the one who's been like calling for civil war for the longest time and saying, "Oh, fucking shit's popping up," and like his boner is so fucking hard every second for one of these news articles and shit's going down and fire and brimstone. He's rock hard whenever this shit happens. So who's a sensationalist? Who's on the side of chaos? Not me, man. Not me. I hate to see this shit. Doesn't serve me. Doesn't serve Democrats. Not independently justifiable. Haters in, bro. Patriots in. How you guys doing? At the end of the day, it's Thanksgiving. And you know what I'm thankful for? I'm thankful for all of you guys. The true Patriots in the chatters, in the replies. We got some funny memes going on. There was a nice little exchange here. This is a great one for anyone who's dealing with the fascism bit. So this guy, 78K person, says, "We blame you," because he snipes me saying Trump is a fascist, Kirk was a fascist, Sicko's in charge of administration, a fascist. Now, the context of this tweet, I believe this. B, it was when people were canceling Jimmy Kimmel, were saying we should arrest people who call other people fascists. Not the first time Elon Musk said that. And so that was me saying what I truly believe, but also in response to people basically saying, we dare you. I'm like, say no more, fam. I'm going to call them what I think and what they are. And then I say, yeah, none of that is calling for death. Trump called Kamala a fascist. It's not calling for death, dipshit. And then I attach the genuine contrition and sadness that I felt when Charlie Kirk was killed. And look what this guy Frank says. Frankie, our boy Frank. You call them the most damaging political label possible, let others do the rest. So what's the implication there? You're leading the horse to water, right? You're putting out the crumbs so that the violent people in your who support you will do the rest. I think just ask them this. Is that what Trump was doing when he called Kamala a fascist? Simple yes or no will suffice. And then all of a sudden he goes quiet. Where are the replies? Where did he go? Are you okay? Well, that was to me, but you know what I mean? Like, there's no response other than Kamala is a fascist. Yeah, Trump is a fascist. But his argument, right? And whenever you can deal with these people, they say, when you call someone a fascist, these are like the P.F. Young type, not as bad. I think P.F. Young, he gets a bad rap, so I'm not trying to go too hard on P.F. Young. I like those conversations. But the kind of feeling which like, don't you think that what you're doing is you're actually saying that Trump should be killed when you call him a fascist? You just ask him, you agree Trump called Kamala a fascist. Do you think that when he called Kamala a fascist, that he was calling for violence? And they squirm. That guy, the distributist or whatever, I don't even know his name. That shit went out of my prefrontal cortex and out of my short-term memory in 2 seconds. The distributist guy, whatever, the Christian nationalist Catholic guy who is a self-hating Catholic. Seemingly, at the end of that conversation. Watching him squirm. I think that he just meant he should lock her up. I didn't ask lock her up. Is that a call to violence? Yes or no? And P.F. Young, because I'm a cuck, I let P.F. Young bail him out. Because I wanted to have an amicable conversation. I should people accuse me of going too hard. Honestly, on those issues, on these kinds of issues, I should never have let P.F. Young bail him out. Huge L on my behalf to let him move the conversation. I thought the point was made, but just letting him squirm, it wasn't long enough because they don't have an answer for that. It's like, okay, so we're allowed to call you communist and fascist, but when you do it, it's call for violence. Anyway, what's good? What's good, folks? Oh, we have a good amount of viewers. You guys are chilling. I'm thankful for y'all. For the super chats, for the assistance. Because I know that most of you get it. Most of you get what we're seeing. Oh, the last thing. Oh, these are some of the examples. This is so good. So what the question is like, when did they ever say that the National Guard were Nazis, right? And so this guy, Blue Sky Libs, who I've interacted with before, he goes, here are the examples, right? And we go through them, right? First off, who? John Robinson. All right, so keep that in mind. Which American cities is Trump sending the National Guard to? Which cities get ICE and which ones get the Gestapo? Very clearly not calling the National Guard the Gestapo, right? National Guard, ICE, and Gestapo. So it's a cute little comment about Trump's fascist tendencies, not calling National Guard Gestapo. This guy, Gabe Ortiz, who? Quoting someone, right? Quoting someone. There's a point where if you don't stand up to the Gestapo, are you just actively one of them now? So that's not even his he's just quoting someone saying, at some point, don't you have some culpability, National Guard person? That's not calling them the Gestapo yet. And it's not even his statement. Bill Madden. I don't know who the fuck Bill Madden is. Have you ever heard of Bill Madden? The Ninth Circuit has ruled that the loathsome piece of shit has the authority to deploy the National Guard to war-ravaged Portland to engage with Antifa freedom frogs who have been humiliated in the treasonous act of humiliating Trump's Nazi ICE Gestapo. Once again, not calling the National Guard the Gestapo. But finally, you have Anarcho Terran, truly the face of the Democratic Party, National Guard Gestapo troops waging war against California can be arrested for treason against the state of California. That's anarcho-terrorism. And I say, holy shit, I didn't know Gabe Ortiz, John Robinson, Bill Madden, and anarcho-terrorism, the face of the Democrats, said this. Like, this is a joke. John Robinson, this motherfucker has no... I have like 10 times the followers. This is a nobody. Former editor of the News and Record, and he didn't even say that they're the Gestapo. It's a joke. This whole thing's a fucking joke. Gabe or I saw it, I couldn't stop laughing. And then this brainiac says, well, Pisco, if a Democratic senator got hanged a few days after Trump made that statement, because remember, guys, I forgot to tell you, you might have forgotten this already, because every day it's like a new depravity for the current Oval Office occupant, Donald Trump. But you may have forgotten that like a few days ago, Trump was saying, hang all the Democrat senators. And not figuratively, literally. He's like, punishment by death. And then he retweets, George Washington would have hanged them all. So like, I'm not mincing words, like very clearly saying this is what ought happen. What ought happen is all these people get arrested and tried as sedition people. And he said the punishment for that is death. And then he retweeted, hang them. And so I'm like, reminder, Trump literally called for the death by hanging of Democrats in the last few days. That's not a call to violence, nor is Trump calling Kamala a fascist, but it is when they call Trump a fascist, or when you say troops should disobey illegal orders. That's like the story, by the way, of the worst of the excesses of the U.S. military, Abu Ghraib, fucking My massacre, these kinds of shit, right? All the worst things are just following orders, right? This is not a controversial call to violence. And then this genius, Nate Chobbs, shout out Nate Chobbs, really great point. If a Democratic senator got hanged a few days after Trump made that comment, would you blame Trump or would you just treat it as an unrelated coincidence? I'm like, yeah, I probably would say there's a more than a decent chance of it being connected if that happened. And since I'm being even-handed, I will condemn all of the very popular Democrats who advocated for shooting members of the National Guard. These people can't think. They have no neural function. I'm starting to think that I'm the only sentient creature in the universe. And the people in my chat are like my little fingers, like just different incarnations of my consciousness. And then these are all like simulated bots that are just robots. Like, I can't think that someone would type this as a big own. Yeah, the difference here is, that's my point, dude. Trump is explicitly calling for the death of his political rivals, and the Democrats are not calling for the death of the National Guard. They're not sending their best, folks. What else can I say? I truly am owned by the fact that anarcho-terran, this DNC shill, you know what? He's followed by John Cooper and Mark Hamill. That this guy said National Guard was Gestapo. He really got me, this Blue Sky lib. By the way, a lot of these follower counts are super inflated because Blue Sky has this thing where you follow a package of creators or something. And so I have 15K followers or something. But it's like, it's just very trivially easy to be able to game the system that way if you just get onto like one of those popular packages. And so this is, okay, he's followed by Mark Hamill, but Mark Hamill might have just clicked like some random package of people to follow. Any questions? Is there anything else I wanted to say? These people know they're full of shit. They know it. They know it. They're malicious. They're malicious. And you ought to treat them with that in mind, always. Never forget what they are. I never forget what you are. You are a patriot. you are a Republic enjoyer. You are actually the loyalist, right? Because you're staying true to what you actually are supposed to be loyal to. That is our country, our way of life, and not just some dipshit who now is like a decrepit, failing old man. I can't even talk. Oh, by the way, we couldn't do the Viva Frey thing tonight because of like family. I also want when I do the Viva Frey thing, I want it to be in like my nice setup. I don't want it to be the scuffed stuff, so we're pushing that to next week. As a heads up. I'll reach out to Tim to see if we can have a discussion about it. Because he knows he's being sneaky. And that's absolutely something that I'm going to like. And in the next conversation, I hope that we are able to have a conversation. And you know, I know it's part of the game, and so listen. It's a game to them. It's a game to them. It's not actually, they're not actually feeling it the way that we are, right? To them, it's a game. But if we ever have that sort of follow-up conversation, we are 1,000% going to be talking about this. 1,000 trillion%. There's no way that we won't. And we will be pushing for concessions. Always, always, always. One guy, one time. What is the purpose and end goal to call someone or not? This is only pencil, this fucking dipshit. It never comes into VC. If it's descriptively accurate, the purpose is to describe reality and truth. If it coheres with reality, why do you label anything like that's correct? Also, presumably, to suggest to individuals why you shouldn't support these people. But this idiot, only pencil, who asked this question, the only thing that you could mean by labeling someone a fascist is to mark them for death. And by the way, keep in mind, we're not even talking about that in this context. They're saying Mark Kelly has blood on his hands. I don't know if Mark Kelly called him a fascist, but they're not pointing to the fascist rhetoric. At least initially they weren't, right? Afterwards, they realized it's untenable. It's not even passing the smell test. But initially, what they were saying was, because you said don't follow illegal orders, that was what was marking people for death. If you're calling someone a fascist, it must be to mark them for death. I mean, it's so stupid. So trivially not true. Why do you call people communists? Do you call people communists because you want to kill them? I assume that that's not the case. Wishing Lisandro Peña and his family a pleasant Thanksgiving. Reminder, Pisco, this isn't only pencil. This is Lisandro Peña. Lisandro Peña. Yo, that would truly be a Christmas present. To be able to discuss one of these issues with Lisandro Peña. That's all I got. I wasn't planning on doing another stream until Friday. That's all I got. Crazy Connor conversation though. I keep thinking about that. I'm like, I can't even believe he was saying half the shit he was saying. I'm like in a fugue state. I don't know what just happened with that conversation. I told my editor to make an edit of it, and I don't know what. I think I want to rewatch it, not like on stream or something, but like because I don't actually know. As I think about like, did that shit just take place? You should yell at Rob. He didn't want to fucking talk to me the other day. I think even he was doing like an open. He said no. So am I going to ask again now? It seems like a little. And that was under more fun circumstances where I was going to like poke him a little bit about word war debate and Sarah Tomato. And this now it seems like he's going to be like, the Democrats, you see it constantly. You see it. You see it. Where's the background llama? A good friend of mine, she got me a little plushy llama and with like a little Peruvian hat that you can put on it as like an early, I don't know, like as like a little gift. And I want to show it to you guys. It's very cute. But it's an alpaca. Sorry. I would love to talk about these conservatives. I have trouble nowadays trying to get them on stream. I think maybe I'll be forced to go on TikTok because I'm having trouble finding people to come on. Shout out Viva Frey though, because I think he'll come on. Yeah, you can go into my to VOD's TX to find the kind of one, but we're also making an edit. Isn't Rob Noor always saying liberals want to be able to? No, honestly, Rob could have been doing content or whatever that he planned. So I'm not trying to. I just feel like a little weird being insistent of it, especially now where it's like the debates are gonna be. It's just gonna be stupid. So if he asked me, I would definitely do it. I'm just like less angsty to reach out a second time and just be rejected a second time. Oh, what does Cam Higby have to say?
The shooting of 2 West Virginia National Guard.
All right. Let's actually watch this. Hang on. Well, I might want to watch his first response though first before we close off.
About the.
He had an initial video. Well, where he was saying some shit.
Bunch.
And by the way, this is Cam Higby who's like accusing Democrats of being performative. So that's your motivation, right? So you're a viewer and you're trying your best to think that Cam Higby is not being performative. This is like minutes after the news is breaking, right? Maybe like an hour at best. I don't actually know when it broke, but it's close in time to when the story broke. All right. And he's the one accusing Democrats of being performative. Okay.
I just left lunch with my family to come home and report on this story. Today, there are at least 2 families that will hold Thanksgiving dinner with 1 empty seat each. 2 National Guardsmen were murdered in Washington, D.C. today, about a block away from Lafayette Square, guarding a metro subway entrance. We don't have a ton of details on the situation right now, but here's what we do have. My brother is in the National Guard, so the story is extremely close to me. I'm furious, and I really hope the administration does something, and does something big about this. Nick Sorter tweeted, breaking, horrifying photo of U.S. Secret Service treating a National Guard soldier.
Does something big about this. You mean prosecute the person who did it? No, what they mean is, I hope that they punish other people, something bigger, like go after individuals who are culpable for this. And let's see who he thinks is culpable.
Who's been shot in the head near the White House. This is infuriating. This is happening on the streets of our capital, and Democrats pretend there's no problem. Deploy more troops.
Democrats pretend there's no problem. Democrats pretend that there is no problem with this shooting.
Obviously censored. I have seen.
By the way, Trump literally said he got rid of crime in D.C. So if anyone is pretending that there's no problem anymore, it was Trump before this happened. Before this happened, Trump's going around the entire country saying, we stopped all the crime in D.C. And Cam Higby says, the Democrats are saying there's not a problem anymore. Dude, that's what you guys have been saying, is that you solved crime in D.C. Spare me this sanctimonious garbage. It is like, it's always the opposite of what they allege. It's the direct opposite.
The uncensored version of this photo, the guardsman was shot in the head, and the matter from inside of his head and the blood is all over the ground here. You can obviously...
Really gratuitous, by the way. The brain matter is scattered on the floor right here. Who's being performative now, dude? This is really personal to me. The brain is scattered on the fucking ground.
They see broken glass. They shot through.
You really sound shook up about it.
Bus stop that's next to it. It appears that this might have been a drive-by shooting, but I'm not 100% certain.
Just riffing. Just fucking riffing. There's no how the fuck would he know that? These people aren't even reported dead now. So he's saying, and look at what he said. I'm aware there are reports that they are in critical condition. I recorded this while they reported that he had been killed. Alive or not, those seats will still be empty. Fucking melodramatic as shit. Fuck this guy.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to show uncensored photos of that. But we do have
No, we have to maintain decorum after your vivid and extremely graphic description.
A video here of one of the victims of the shooting involving the National Guard members being transported to a helicopter. The governor of, I believe, West Virginia has confirmed that these guardsmen, who I believe are West Virginia National Guardsmen, are dead. It is with great sorrow that we confirm both members of the West Virginia National Guard, who were shot earlier today in Washington, D.C., have passed away from their injuries. These brave West Virginians lost their lives in service of their country. We are in ongoing contact with federal officials as the investigation continues. Our entire state grieves with the families, their loved ones, and the Guard community. West Virginia will never forget their service or their sacrifice, and we will demand full accountability for this horrific act. Like I said, there are two families that will have an empty place at their dinner table this week. As you gather with your families, as you sit around the table and talk with your loved ones, just remember how thankful you are for them.
As you rushed out of your family gathering to film this video with your cat and do this little melodramatic speech and basically accuse Democrats of showboating and being melodramatic. What are you talking about? Gray matter and brain matter being splattered on the ground.
Because they very well could not be there. And there are two families this week. Two families whose sons, brothers, maybe fathers were killed in a line of duty this week by a terrorist. And I'm not implying anything with that statement. This person is a terrorist, regardless of what they look like, what their faith is, what color their skin is. This person is a terrorist. People were killed by terrorists, robbed.
I mean, that's just like definitionally not true necessarily just because people were shot. A crazy person who's shooting people because they're crazy isn't necessarily a terrorist. Now, as it happens, do I think it's most likely that this was terrorism? I do think it's most likely, but it isn't at that point in time when we had perhaps less information of plausible motives. And even right now, we don't really have plausible motive. These words don't matter to these people. Definitions and meaning doesn't matter. Why do you need to jump to this conclusion right away? Right away. You don't need to do this right now. If you had respect for these people, if you had respect for the process, but you don't, if you cared about your duty to the audience, you would withhold judgment until you have, I don't know, maybe 3 hours of coverage to go off of. And not just, oh, I think it's a drive-by shooting.
Their lives robbed from their families, robbed from them prematurely and early. A lot of these National Guardsmen are, and names haven't been released. We don't know who these guardsmen were. A lot of them are very young guys. When the LA riots were going on, very, very young guys. When I was in DC, the guardsmen that were there, very young guys. You know, just because they're in the Guard doesn't mean they necessarily support Trump, doesn't mean they voted for Trump. They signed up to serve their country, and that's what they're doing. They're following their orders. And their orders are not fascist orders. They're not out there stormtrooping and rounding up all the brown.
I mean, the implication there is clear from he's basically saying these Democrats, they've been attacking our poor rank and file National Guard troops. It's the opposite. What are the Democrats saying? The Democrats are saying, hey, don't waste these people's time. Hey, don't take away our sovereignty and control and just have these people picking up trash for your vanity. Don't disrespect the National Guard by giving them orders that I think more than plausibly violate posse comitatus, enforcement of civilian law. Don't put them in this position. Don't disrespect them. So it's the opposite again. We're not disrespecting the rank and file National Guard service person, the Democrats. We're trying to prevent them from being put in an impossible situation where they have to weigh these various different obligations, and we are being pushed to the extreme. And it's not just National Guard, it's also these murders that are happening on the high seas and Marines that were deployed in California.
On people and sending them to jail or executing them. They were guarding a subway station. They're just making their area of duty a little safer. DC, when Trump deployed the National Guard, had the 4th highest murder rate in the country. And now it has one of the lowest because of the National Guard presence in the city. There is a really kind of disturbing video. It doesn't show anything. You're not going to see any gore or blood or anything like that. But there's a video I want to show you guys of Secret Service and other guardsmen trying to keep these guys alive. So these are Secret Service agents and National Guardsmen attempting to revive one of the murdered guardsmen, rendering aid. And obviously, like I said, these guys didn't make it. You can see the bus stop shattered here. That's where all the broken glass came from. Just despicable. In what causes things like this to happen? We actually have a depiction of the shooter already. We have an aerial photo of the shooter. He got shot. He's wounded. Trump issued a statement. We'll read that in a second. This is the man who opened fire on the National Guard just one day before Thanksgiving. He was taken away in handcuffs after being shot, stripped, and loaded into a stretcher before being placed in an ambulance.
This is the guy who did the drive-by shooting, of course.
Both National Guard members shot near the White House are now in critical condition. We now know that they're dead. They're not alive anymore.
Not true.
I'm not going to say who it was. I'm not going to say what I'm thinking. I'm not going to say my suspicion.
I'm not going to say what I think. Why even... the gall this guy has to accuse Democrats of being performative, to accuse Democrats of being insincere. The gall. Say what's on your mind, bro.
Just go ahead and take a look at that photo and let me know who you think it was. I know who I think it was. I'm not gonna say it. I'm just gonna let you guys take a guess. I'm not gonna make any accusations.
Oh yeah, make sure to have that classy donation sound in this video.
About what ideology I think drove this, or what this person was thinking when they decided to senselessly murder 2 National Guardsmen who were doing nothing more than keeping the subway safe. I think you've got a pretty good idea of who did it and why.
I think you have a pretty good... We have no facts! We have no facts at this point in time. We don't know the motive. And let me tell you right now, we still don't. Is it possible there's a connection to Islamic terrorism because the guy's an Afghan national? Yeah, it's possible now that we have that. But we didn't have that information then. And that isn't the line that he was pushing at the moment. The conservative line was that these individuals were being motivated by like statements that centrist Democrats were saying in their little videos that no one saw except for the conservatives who were sewing out about it and made it a national story.
Pretty obvious. I think there's no doubt. A lot of people are wondering, why is he naked? He got shot. They probably stripped him to make sure he didn't have any more weapons on him, and also to make sure that they could treat his wounds. Personally, I don't think he deserved to have his wounds treated. I'm more...
Okay, I'm more in the just let him die and not have justice phase. Just shoot him on the spot. I'm more about that. Real tough guy.
In the camp of get the firing squad ready, make the trial.
Don't have any rights and just immediately kill this person and not actually have a trial. Like, they abandon. This is a country, ultimately, of sentiment, right? This is not me suggesting this isn't a tragic event, right? I'm going to talk to the men right now. Not all men. The men who say, women are so emotional. How can they be trusted to run the country because they're so emotional? Men who say that are statistically guaranteed to be the most emotional beta cuck soy bitches that have ever existed. He says, he's so profoundly, and a part of this is phony, of course, but even that, like, I can't hold myself back. We just need to kill him right away. We just need to abandon everything. Like, thinking emotionally, thinking, even if you were to accept that this is like a genuine, it is so performative. I am not buying this performance. I'm just going to be honest. Maybe he's being genuine, that he's been moved to this level of of emotion because of emotion, in quotes, because of his brother in the National Guard. I'm not going to say that that's not true, but I'm just telling you my impression. My impression is that this is a performance. This is an act. And even if it is true, you're not thinking through what's in the best interest of justice. Let the guy die and abandon our values as a country? And abandon the rule of law? Firing squad and show trial?
As quick as possible. Here is a Democrat on ABC telling their constituents that the National Guard were deployed to kill American citizens.
These videos coming out of places like Chicago, it makes me incredibly nervous that we're about to see people in law enforcement, people in uniform military, nervous, get stressed, shoot at American civilians. It is a
complete lie Cam Higbee just told. What is Alyssa Slotkin saying there? She's worried that having the National Guard there is going to cause genuine mistakes of anxiety and people not understanding signals and escalation of tensions and mistakes happen. That is so clearly what Alyssa Slotkin is describing. Not any question about it, right? There's no question that that's what she's referencing, is this kind of problems of escalating tensions and them getting nervous, right? Them getting nervous suggests that it isn't their conscious object to go kill Americans. In other words, it is the direct opposite of what Cam Higbee is suggesting. But he introduced this section as what, right? There is no reasonable dispute about what Alyssa Slotkin is meaning in that moment. You would have to be the most partisan hack, despicable liar to interpret it in the way that Cam Higbee introduced it. And how, again, does he introduce it?
These videos.
I think there's no doubt. Yes, I think it's pretty obvious. I think there's no doubt. A lot of people are wondering, why is he naked? He got shot. I don't think he deserved to have his wounds treated. I'm more in the camp of get the firing squad ready, make the trial as quick as possible. Here is a Democrat on ABC telling their constituents that the National Guard were deployed to kill American citizens.
They were deployed to kill American citizens. That's how he's representing. That's how he's representing what Alyssa Slotkin just said. That is how he's representing it. When you just heard that comment, and I'm going to play it for you again, in no respect is that what Alyssa Slotkin is suggesting.
These videos coming out of places like Chicago, it makes me incredibly nervous that we're about to see people in law enforcement, people in uniform military, nervous, get stressed, shoot at American civilians.
I'm nervous that they're going to get stressed, anxious, right? Stressed, nervous, and shoot. That is not that they're sent there for that aim. It's that could be perhaps the unfortunate result of high pressure stress situations. That's what she's talking about. And it's not even debatable.
It is a very, very stressful situation for these law enforcement and for the communities on the ground. So it was basically a warning to say, like, if you're asked to do something, particularly against American citizens.
It doesn't end there, guys.
And even notice that, right? If you're asked to do something, conditional, right? If you're asked to do something, which, by the way, we ought be worried about. Because this guy doesn't give a shit about the law. Trump does not give a shit about his oath. He wipes his ass for the Constitution.
Here is Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson leading a protest against the National Guard and demonizing them. Just pay attention to the signs. Pay attention to the signs.
No soldiers on our streets. Based. Based, actually. No troops in Chicago. Based. So this is Cam Higbee's approach. If you say that you don't want National Guard deployment, you wanted my brother to die, and you celebrate the death of my brother because you take a position against the deployment.
They called it a violation of federal law. It's not true.
It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. Leave that to the courts to decide, buddy.
10 U.S. Code 12406 very clearly says.
Very clearly, except when it doesn't.
The President of the United
Except when we have split rulings now from the certain courts of appeals, and at most, it's suggesting that they're not reviewable in the one instance in which it was found to be like a discretionary decision, and that's only in one decision from a panel of the Ninth Circuit. It didn't suggest that what was happening was legal, just that in some circumstances the courts have to apply like a incredibly high standard of review. That doesn't itself say that what's going on is legal, and it doesn't obviously suggest that, and there have been rulings to the contrary. So his suggestion here, I think, is total garbage, and it's illegal for other reasons, not just the calling forth statutes, but also posse comitatus, which I'm sure this genius is going to bring up as well. I actually don't know.
The United States has the right to federalize the National Guard under Title 10 of U.S. Code and deploy them wherever he sees fit, as long as federal law cannot be enforced adequately with regular forces, or there's a risk of rebellion, or there's federal international.
Oh, how
invasion.
I wish to debate
International
this fucking
invasion.
guy on this.
Depends on how you look at it.
Depends on how you look at it. I mean, if Trump says there's an invasion, hey, dipshit, Cam Higby, dipshit, did you miss all the executive orders declaring an invasion? Did you miss the invocation of the alien? Did you fuck up there? Did you fuck up there and you forget your daddy has already declared there to be an invasion?
But there's certainly a case to be made that there's a risk of rebellion, as our ICE facilities are routinely attacked, rammed with cars, and shot up. Federal law can't be enforced with regular forces. That's been shown. We're wasting millions of dollars every day in places like Portland, Seattle, Chicago, because the driveways are blocked, cars ram into federal agents, etc. I've got another video to show you guys. Here's CNN, a guest on CNN who implies.
So, as between this response, and I don't even know how much more of this I can fucking take. It's so melodramatic. It's so dripping with giddiness at being able to make a political point here on zero facts. As between this response and your typical Democratic senator who isn't using this as an opportunity to monologue endlessly about your, frankly, in some cases, or potentially unrelated, like, problems with the opposite party. As between those two examples, take Gavin Newsom, for example, and Cam Higby, which seems more performative to you? Which seems more sincere and honest to you? This guy doesn't have an honest bone in his body. I don't believe it for 1 second.
The National Guard are Nazis.
Actually,
Pull it up for you guys.
Actually, what the president is doing through the Secretary of Defense is creating units, official military units, to, quite frankly, watch the American people. And that's the thing that is absolutely abhorrent. It reminds me so much of what happened in Germany in the 1930s.
Implying.
Yeah. It does remind me of what happened in the 1930s. Having these deniable, like, military forces within the country to conduct internal surveillance of political enemies. That actually does remind me of the 1930s in Germany. And us saying that doesn't mean we're calling rank and file members of the National Guard Nazis. What a preposterous... Like, these guys, they only live on deception. They only live in the lie, and so they can't get out of it. They have to lie. It's in their nature.
That, again, the National Guard are stormtrooper Nazis.
Is that what you just heard? Did you just hear that? Is that what that guy just said?
And I wonder why people went and decided to murder them randomly. Again, I'll show you this image. This is the tweet from Nick Sorter, blacked out.
I wonder why they tried to randomly... So, this is Cam Higby saying it's these CNN guys that inspired what happened here. That is the implication he's doing. And now, the angle is these fucking Muslims, am I right? Biden's immigration policies, am I right? So it doesn't matter what the facts are. It'll change to fit, some other element of the Democratic coalition or some other excuse. And when you call them out on their bullshit and their lies, that's when they pounce and they're like, oh, you support the shooter. Come on, guys.
Or white it out. I'm not going to show you guys the full image. I've seen it.
Oh, yeah. And I totally believe that even if people are calling them Nazis, it still wouldn't be a call. Absolutely agree. 100% agree. Not a call to violence in the slightest, even if they were called Nazis. And yeah, so this is just even like a backup argument. Like this is way like we need to establish what it is to have a call to violence or incitement. Forget about it.
Beautiful. His brain matters on the ground, blood everywhere.
Very classy.
So West Virginia National Guardman murdered in the streets of Washington, D.C., 1 block away from the White House. There better be a response from the federal government, from the Trump administration.
You better step on me harder, Daddy. You better fucking unleash the government on these Democrats, on these old guys that go on CNN. You better. Because they're responsible for the brain matter of my brother being on the ground and killing our troops.
That is monumentous. Whoever's responsible for it, whether it's Antifa, whether it's radical Islamists, whether it's communists, I don't care if it's a far-right faction. I don't care. Something's got to get done about it. No more of this pansy footing around. Oh, we're going to designate this group a terrorist organization. We're going to designate that group a terrorist organization. If you designate them a terrorist organization, arrest every single member and send them to jail. Otherwise,
arrest people for their associations with bad people. Dude. So when we call you a government bootlicking shill, this is why. Because you want daddy government to put its fucking boot on your neck and on the rest of the people's necks. And you want to say, thank you, daddy, can I have another?
why shit like...
And he's like, why would they compare us to the 1930s Nazis? We're just trying to round up entire political ideologies and groups. That's what I want to happen. Why are you saying 1930s? Why are you saying that?
This is going to keep happening. If you are a member of a terrorist organization, you should not be allowed to freely roam the streets of this country and engage in civil disobedience, in acts of law violation, at unlawful assemblies all around this country. You should be in jail, not free to shoot up National Guard.
So, by the way, I love that they go after Biden for his Hitler speech, because Biden had like that red LED or whatever it was behind him. But after each one of these incidents, they show their true colors. I want all my enemies locked up. They should not be allowed to walk the streets of this earth. My cries will echo like a battle cry.
In Washington, D.C., and now that it's in Trump's backyard, I hope that he actually does something about it. And when I say his backyard, I mean literally in his backyard. Let's pull up Google Maps. And I'm not, I fully support Trump, right? But it is a little bit...
I fully support the government. I trust the government. I love the government so much. I would never say anything against the government. I love the government. I just think the government should do more, have more power, and they should have the ability to throw everyone they want in jail all the time, and I would never criticize them. Bootlicking shill, fucking government truster, fucking deniable op.
Frustrating when we designate Antifa a foreign designated terrorist organization and nothing gets done about them. So I just want to show you how close this is. This is the White House right here. Right here, this is the White House, okay? This is Lafayette Square. This is where the shooting happened. Right here. Farragut Metro Station. Right here. This is where it happened. This is exactly where the shooting happened.
This guy gets This guy gets invited to the fucking White House and to the press corps.
Right here. 1 block away from Lafayette Square, which is effectively the back or front yard, depending on how you look at it, of the White House. So I really hope something happens. I really hope the Trump administration does something about it now that it's in their backyard. They have been protesting in Washington, D.C. endlessly for months against the National Guard.
Good. Against the deployment. Good. They should.
Calling them Nazis, stormtroopers.
You prove that.
Telling them that they're defying their oaths, etc., despite the fact that they're not defying their oaths.
But even if they were, by the way, and they might be, frankly, some of them, on certain things. There was one National Guard trip that he said something insane when he was passing one of these people. And so that guy, I'm like, take a look at that guy. But even if they were, that's our fucking right as Americans. We don't actually need your permission to say that we think that they're violating their oaths, actually. We actually don't give a shit if you think it's acceptable for us to say that. And if one of you says that you think that the National Guard is violating their oaths, that's your right as an American. And if one of you says, hey, I think you're violating the oath if you kill people in the open seas and you murder them, yeah, I actually think that that's our right. And we actually don't need your permission, Cam Higbee, to do that. And we're not going to put up with your threats. And we're not going to stop. It just got 10 times more likely that we will say things like that.
They've done nothing illegal. Their orders aren't unlawful. And it's working. Again, 4th highest murder rate in the country, dropped to almost nothing. Why? When you have soldiers in the streets, the bad guys tend to stay home.
And if you disagree with it, if you say you don't want troops on the streets enforcing civilian law, if you say that, you think all the rank and file are Nazis.
Good people are too big of cowards. In a lot of cases, yeah. Suspect hit 4 times, still alive. Really? Hit 4 times? I didn't see, I was actually looking at the photo of the suspect, and I didn't see a single bullet hole in him, unfortunately. This is the suspect here. I don't see any bullet holes in him.
Unfortunately, I want to be fucking...
It'd be tougher. Too often, this stuff gets ignored, 100%.
It gets ignored. Too often, the death of troops or the attempted murder of troops gets... Like, when? When? It got ignored under Trump's presidency when he had troop deaths on his watch. But obviously, when Biden had those troops who got killed at near the airbase in Kabul, I think, that was like national news for weeks and weeks, and was for months, for years, still is. And you know what? One of the parents of the surviving officer, or sorry, one of the deceased troops said. He said, and the president looked at his watch, and I wanted to say, it's 2:45. You know how much performative bullshit has been, I think, in a manipulative fashion, foisted upon the American people in a hypocritical pattern of selective outrage with this stuff, and you're going to act like you haven't exploited it to the maximum every time a tragedy or a corrupt or vile act happens against service members?
For Trump, genius. I don't know what you're saying. I mean, listen, despite voting for him, I have a right to criticize him. I'd prefer Trump to Kamala Harris any day. So go off. Wasn't an automatic weapon used? We don't know yet, I don't think. Let's check. Some live updates from Fox News. 2 National Guardsmen killed in shooting.
All right, I'm done with this shit. This guy's a degenerate scumfuck. Fuck this dude. And anyone who like respects this guy or that other dipshit, I forget, he follows me too. I met him. He was unhinged at the Tim Pool thing. These guys deserve your contempt. You need to be angry at these people. Peaceful, always peaceful. Use your words. Don't stop calling out this criminal regime and their criminal deployments and their murders using military force on the high seas. Do not stop. Obviously, peaceful. We believe in the country. We actually believe in the rule of law. We believe in the republic. But don't stop. Don't stop criticizing the administration. What they want to do, bitches like Cam Higbee, is scare you with their little threats or their little replies. It's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. We're not scared of you. We are not scared of you, and we are going to keep criticizing the fucking government, whether you like it or not, Cam Higbee. Folks, enjoy your Thanksgiving. Spend some time with your families. It's not always good to be constantly, wrapped up in the news and stuff. I happen to have been quote tweeted, and I saw this shit. It fucking pissed me off. But seriously, spend some time with your families. Have a good rest of the week. And I'll probably see you next either Friday or Saturday. But much love. Stay cool.